Please introduce yourself for the record and present your testimony.
Good afternoon. My name is ThaoMee Xiong. I'm the Executive Network Director for the Coalition of Asian American Leaders that's based here in Minnesota. We're a statewide organization that has over 5,800 network leaders throughout the state and a total of 10,000 in our network. Thank you for inviting me here today to share the experiences of our Asian American community. But before I start my testimony, I wanted to thank the Native tribal government for your support and for being out there protecting refugees and immigrants. I know you don't have to do it, but your willingness to do it and to fight for our freedom and our democracy is, I cannot thank you enough, so thank you. First, I want to say that I am not here alone. I'm here with dozens of other Asian American organizations, and I just want to acknowledge them. My CAAL team, Transforming Generations, ADA, SEWA, CAPI, HAP, KOM, CFEN, which is a national organization. And I want to also acknowledge the former commissioner of the White House Initiative, Ka-Ying Yang, who's been working tirelessly her entire career to support and defend refugees, especially Southeast Asians. There are an estimated 6% of Asian Americans here in the state of Minnesota. And just to give you a number, it's 332,000 Asian Americans here in Minnesota. Hmong Americans make the largest population of Asian Americans, followed by Chinese Americans and Asian Indians. But 60% of that 332,000 are Southeast Asian, who came here after the secret war in Laos and the Vietnam War. I am Hmong American. I came here as a political refugee. I was born in Laos, then lived in a refugee camp for 3 years, and then resettled in Wisconsin. I've been a lifelong Midwesterner, and now I call Minnesota home. My dad is a janitor. He had 2 jobs to raise 11 kids. My mom is a factory worker who also had 2 jobs. My dad is also a veteran of the Vietnam War. He was a child soldier. He told me that he was carrying a gun that dragged on the floor because he was so small. He suffered bullet wounds, and because he was part of the military, we were the second wave to come to the United States, making us only the 3rd family to resettle in our small town in Wisconsin. My parents always knew we would never be American. They always told us, you don't have blue eyes, you don't have blonde hair, but you will be successful here. And so they put us through college. And I don't often talk about this, but I'm sharing this because my parents are very proud of it. I have 3 degrees. I went to Mount Holyoke, Columbia University, and University of Pennsylvania Law School. Very few people can say they have 3 degrees. Very few people can say they've gone to 2 Ivy League schools. But this is the resiliency and determination of my immigrant parents who came here as refugees, who are now in hiding in their home in Cottage Grove, who say that ICE officials actually reside in the next development next to their house. So my father, who is a child soldier, who fought for freedom and democracy before he even understood what democracy meant and votes every year, is now afraid in the country he fought for. So I share my successes with you because instead of recognizing the contributions of our refugee and immigrant communities in Minnesota particularly, but in this country overall, is very shameful. Instead, we're painted with a broad brush that we are violent criminals. All my colleagues who are here today on behalf of the Asian American community can tell you the percentage of violent criminals are few and far in between. But do we have some like any other community? Of course. We're human. So I want to share this human story and give you a human face so that you no longer drag our people like animals into detention centers. And in particular, I want to say, when will we be enough? to be Americans? Is it enough when I have 3 degrees? Is it enough when my parents raise a surgeon, a CEO, a CFO, professors? When will it be enough? For our brothers and sisters who are being detained. Earlier, Linus Chen said that people with removal orders, and many of the people we work with have removal orders. That means they can stay here legally until the federal government removes them to a country that will accept them. The majority of people we've been working with are Hmong, Lao, Cambodian, and Vietnamese, and many are working with the Karen and Karenni community. They came here as refugees fleeing their country because of political persecution. Now they're trying to be forced back into these countries that persecuted them because they aligned with the US government. Many immigrant and refugee communities, not just the Southeast Asian or Asian American community, are here as a result of the geopolitical wars that were created by the US government to maintain their US world power positions. So many are not here willingly. They fled here for safety, and now they live in chaos. I want to share a few examples of the individuals who have removal orders. People call them illegal. They did not come here illegally. They came here with status. They remain here in status, but they can be removed at any moment. They check in every 6 months with an ICE officer or every year. During their check-ins, they report if they've done drugs, committed any offenses, so on and so forth. Many have said they go into a check-in and they're able to leave, and then the very next day or a few days later, they're dragged out of their workplaces, or ICE officers force themselves into their homes and humiliate them in front of their children who are crying in the background, in front of their coworkers, their bosses. So now they've lost their job and they're seen as a violent criminal when they've already done their time. Many have been out for 10 to 15 years. Many engaged in these crimes when they were teenagers, living in the worst neighborhoods in Minnesota and throughout the country, in violent situations where they were trying to survive. And so these violent criminals, today, they're fathers, brothers, breadwinners. So the majority of people we work with are actually men. They're heads of households. So imagine taking the head of a household from your family, and now you've lost a means of being able to survive. I want to say also that this deportation and criminalization of the Southeast Asian community started even when we first came to the US in 1975. We came here as a result of the Vietnam War, and the US was extremely chaotic. And my parents have faced racial discrimination since they landed in this country. In 2017, we saw a surge of Southeast Asians being detained and deported. And we were already organizing then. But the scale in which we're seeing the violence today is unprecedented. And I stand before you extremely nervous because I am so afraid for my kids who are 16 and 14, who go to school, a very white school, I must say, and they're worried their teachers and their peers will not know how to protect them if ICE comes. And they are born in Minnesota and are US citizens. My parents, who are both citizens, are afraid and live in hiding. And so the violence against Asian Americans and other immigrant and refugee communities are not isolated to just this time. It's just been so blatant, so violent, so vicious, that when you remove the immigrants and refugees from the state cannot function. Do you guys hear that? If you remove all the refugees and immigrants from this state will not be able to function. We create billions in tax dollars to make sure that Minnesotans can live a comfortable, luxurious life with peace and without violence. And so I want to say that the organizations that I named, we are all organizing together, and we provide emergency legal triage support 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I've been in communication with individuals who've been in detention, both in Texas and here. And I want to say that the individuals who were in Texas, there are 6 tents. There's over 1,000 people in each tent. There's nowhere to sleep. They can't call their attorney or their family members because there are not enough phones and the lines are too long. They know people who've died in the tents, and the individuals who have been released, ICE has told them, you have to find your own way back to Minnesota. And so now their families are scrambling to get the resources to bring them back home. For the individuals in detention here in Minnesota, they say the conditions are much better. But every day they see a new load of immigrants and refugees coming into the detention center and then being removed within 48 hours to a place that has more room because the detention centers here are so full. One individual in the detention center said he just wants to come back to work. He works for a union here in Minnesota. He's a construction worker and he has 4 kids. He was taken before Christmas, could not spend time with his family, and now his mortgage payments are delayed and he doesn't know how his family's gonna stay in his house. So I just wanna say I urge you to act. You have power. Holding this hearing was a very powerful act, and I thank you for that. We urge our congressional members to act. They have power. They're 1/3 of branch of government that can hold the president, ICE, DHS accountable. And so my last request is do not treat us as animals. I am a human. My brothers and sisters are humans. Immigrants and refugees are humans. And so if you must detain someone, at least remember they are not an animal and treat them with dignity. Thank you.